breaking down the deals, data, and disruption shaping global markets. You're listening to The Daily Ledger with Dennis Sert.
Hey folks, it is Monday, April 6th, 2026. You're listening to The Daily Ledger Show, and I am your host, Dennis Sert. Great to be here with you tonight. We got some good stories we're going to talk about today, and we're just going to dive right in. We're going to talk first about, we got two stories, and we're just going to kind of do some commentary on both of them. The Big Bang, AI has created a code overload from the New York Times. And Google quietly launched an AI dictation app that works offline from TechCrunch. Before we get into those, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow if you're on Instagram Reels or TikTok. A lot of this content gets viewed from short form, so make sure to share the clips and the shorts and the TikToks and the Reels with all of your friends. And yeah, we're going to have a good show today. We're going to have some fun. And yeah, just sit back and relax. Let's just dive right into it. So here's a story from the New York Times. The Big Bang. AI has created a code overload. Okay. Now, it kind of goes into it. There's a few lines I specifically wanted to talk about. So in the article, it kind of talks about like Cursor, which is basically what killed VS Code, which is an IDE, or in other words, what software developers like the programs that they use to code in. It's kind of like Microsoft Word. But yeah, so Cursor is like this AI first thing that kind of killed VS Code a couple of years ago, and then they're trying to stay competitive. Cursor is, but Claude Code is kind of eating their lunch right now. But yeah, well, they haven't died, but a lot, their momentum has certainly gone down, and public sentiment is for sure. Anyways, so that's kind of the context. And so kind of the meat and potatoes of the article is kind of talking about how basically the New York Times is saying, like, specifically this Mike Isaac and Aaron Griffith saying, oh, the sheer amount of code being delivered and increase in, and so let me just back this up for a second. They're the two authors I mentioned from the New York Times. They're interviewing some like co-founders in San Francisco. So one of the co-founders at some random startup, Stockhawk, which is a security startup firm, says the sheer amount of code being delivered and the increase in vulnerabilities is something they can't keep up with, she said. And as software development moves faster, that forces sales, marketing, customer support, and other departments to pick up the pace. Ms. Clippard added, what is this, first grade? Creating, quote, a lot of stress. So let me just say this. Like, if you're a pussy, or in other words, if you have weak emotional fortitude, you shouldn't be in the business of software development, okay? Like, you should not be a programmer. You should be working at a bakery. And I mean that. Like, you kind of have to be a fucking boss in order to sit down and like ship like really good, successful code at volume and just kind of like push the needle every single fucking day. I mean, you can't be like, oh my God, the sheer amount of code being delivered post AI is it's just a lot of stress, guys. Can we just slow down? Like, no, I'm sorry. Like, no, but if you're coding at 1x speed, your career is dead. Like, again, the bakery is an option for you. Like, someone's got to make the croissants. You know what I'm saying? Like, I happen to love croissants. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's not create a supply shortage there. But really though, like, in order to be a successful software engineer in the post AI age, you really do have to be a fucking animal. Otherwise, you'll be eaten alive by people like me who adopt every new technology and just become 100x more powerful overnight and more productive overnight. Whereas, like, the New York Times, mostly boomers, mostly Gen Xers, maybe even millennials, they're just like, oh man, they take the opposite position, which is unfortunately the losing position, right? So they say like, oh, well, AI will never be as good as me. AI hallucinates, right? They kind of take the opposite of the AI pill, right? Whereas people like me are AI pilled and we just increase our output every single day, right? And our productivity, day 0, 1x, right? Pre AI, AI hits 10x. Then the next day, next year, whatever the time scale is, 100x. Next time step, 1000x, right? And it's not even looking like it's linear like that. Maybe the next step is 10 million x my productivity. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you're stuck at 1x, you know what I mean? You see how you're like swept off the map. So that's what boomers don't understand. And most of them are kind of running the New York Times and everything. So it's just too bad. So let's jump to this other portion of the article here. So I guess here's this quote from Andrew Bosworth, who's a Meta CTO. Projects that once required hundreds of engineers can now be done by tens. Yeah. Well, we figured this out like, 10 years ago. I mean, you'll see like government workers, right? People on the government payroll, they're just off doing God knows what and still collecting that paycheck, right? There's no accountability. And then Elon made this a big thing in 2024. In the beginning of 2025, last year, he was like, okay, why don't, for step one of Doge, hey, why don't you, like, talking to some other government agency, why don't you send me an email, reply to my email with what you did this week and like your manager's name? And it's like 60% of the people didn't even respond to that, right? So it's like, you can imagine how much money is being just like literally just distributed. It's just pretty much just charity at this point to like people who don't do shit, right? And that's one part of the token, right? One side of the coin. The other side of the coin is like, shit, what about all this random, like, you might be able to even defend that and be like, oh, well, you know what? We're making sure that we're contributing to the continued decrease of the unemployment rate, or so. You could make some really weak argument like that, like, oh, well, at least these people aren't unemployed, which I completely don't agree with, but fine, make the argument. And then it's funny because along with that also comes just pure money laundering. Just shrimp, how fast shrimp can run on treadmills. Does toilet water taste better than real sink water? This is real shit. It's real studies that are funded to the tune of tens of millions, sometimes billions of dollars. Gay porn in Peru, right? I mean, the list just goes on and on. Can guinea pigs play Halo 3, right? Video games. It's like, dude, please. And then suddenly it's like, oh, well, we have to get rid of Elon. He's just a bad man. I used to be for green energy, but now I have to switch to a gas guzzler, just fucking diesel up my car, my truck now just because Elon Musk, he's a bad man. We have to stop him. You know what I mean? It's like, well, by that logic, all of those people who were against Elon, now that Trump, I say now that, but this was really like last year in June. But it's like, now that Trump got rid of Elon, doesn't that make you on Trump's side then? With if you're following that logic? So you either have to be with Trump then, who booted Elon, or you have to now be with Elon. So which one is it? You know what I'm saying? So anyways, work that used to take months can now take days. Yeah. And then, of course, Elon was the first to, and that's why I started talking about that, kind of went into a tangent there. But in 2022, with Twitter, right, formerly, later turned it to X, but formerly Twitter, when he, first became, CEO, and then he later became CTO. he laid off like 80% of the engineers, and then X is doing just fine today. You know what I mean? It's like it's never made more money. Yeah. So it turns out there's a lot of fluff. There's a lot of like freeloaders. There's a lot of people not actually doing jack shit, right? Both kind of in the government, which Doge was kind of finding too much about before they kind of cut that off. And then it's such a joke now. They're like, oh my God, JD Vance is going to be our new like fraud czar. It's like, shut the fuck up and bring back Elon right now. You know, it's like, why are they even naming them czars? Like, what's up, border czar, frauds? Like, dude, like, I thought we weren't Russian. You know what I mean? It's like, I keep getting called a Russian propagandist. I've never even been to Moscow. And it's like, oh no, but we're going to call him fraud czar. We're going to call him like, border czar. It's like, okay. Yeah. So anyways, work that used to take months can now take days. Well, no shit. Turns out you don't need a ton of people to get the same amount of output, if not more. More colloquially put, you don't need you can't have too many cooks in the kitchen, right? So yeah. So Meta is just now having that epiphany, apparently. Oh, actually, there's one more thing I want to talk about. So in this other portion, the authors in the New York Times go, not long ago, the process of turning ones and zeros into computer programs was very different. Engineers pored over complicated computer languages to commit them to memory. They might write a few dozen lines of vetted bulletproof code a day. Like, let me just say this. Pure cope from the New York Times. I mean, they're insinuating that, like, they're not technically incorrect. But it's like, why include it? They're insinuating that we need to go back to that time. Newsflash, we aren't in that time. Just accept it. This is the new reality we're in. Okay? You can like, if you aren't consuming 1 million tokens of Claude code a day, you need to be fired. Your ass needs to be fired. Okay? So we aren't in the time where a few dozen lines of vetted bulletproof code a day will win the day. Yeah, let me tell you something. Claude code is always going to write better code than you because you are a loser and you are a failure. You will never be able to write better than AI. You need to just accept it. Just at this point, just internalize it, right? The only way out is through. You can't be like, oh, well, you know what? Back in the day when we used to write BASIC, well, we wrote a few dozen lines of vetted bulletproof code a day. I like to think I'm a big software developer. Bitch, you're nothing. Now go use the fucking 1 million tokens of Claude code. Or here's the fucking pink slip. You know what I mean? It's like, just, you need to fucking wake up. Google quietly launched an AI dictation app that works offline. So they have this new Google AI Edge Eloquent thing on iOS, which kind of takes on some of these startups like Super Whisper, Willow, and Whisper Flow. And, here's kind of my take on it. I mean, it's great that they did it finally, but they're just way too late. You know what I mean? Like, all these other startup companies run by like, people my age, people like younger than me, college dropouts, which, I'm not being inconsistent on. They are, to their credit, they are winning. Like, let me make that point clear. Everyone who I just mentioned, all of these startups, they are winning. They have taken this market and they're doing great in terms of annual recurring revenue, ARR. Okay. So let me just set that aside. My point here is that big tech are all just a bunch of cucks. Okay. It's like they could easily jump into many of these sectors like AI note taking for your meetings. Zoom, why didn't they do that from the get-go? Why didn't they do that as soon as ChatGPT's API came out? And then they let all of these companies kind of take the cake with that. And then same thing here with voice transcription. All of these startups end up, doing quite well with it, right? To their credit. And then Google just kind of sits back and just says, "Oh, you know what?" Like, it's kind of like saying, like, "Oh my God, like some other man is just, taking care of my wife right in front of me. But you know what? This chair is just so comfortable. I think I'm just gonna watch." Like, that's kind of what big tech has been acting like in multiple domains. You know what I mean? So Zoom and Google could easily sort of enter both of these markets, right? AI note taking and voice transcription. But no, it's just, well, you know what? 3 years, 4 years later, just okay. Well, you know what? Now we're getting around to it. It's not even on Android. It's just iOS. I tried downloading it on iOS before the show. It's not even like, available for whatever reason to someone random like me. So it's like, okay, well, fucking losers. I mean, no, I mean, here's the thing. It's like some people are just addicted to feelings of shame and just being cucked, and that's kind of what Google and Zoom are. It's like all these startups are kind of whizzing by, right? Doing great, exploding in ARR. And then it's like that meme from Rise of the Planet of the Apes versus the monkey, and he's like, "Oh no, oh no," just like, helpless, like, "Oh no, they're winning. I'm just Google, I'm just Zoom. What do I do?" Give me a fucking break. Anyways, I think we're gonna end the stream there. Uh, Make sure to like, follow, and comment, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a good one. Peace.